Welcome inside episode 485 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller out on Vancouver Island. And coming up on today's show, there is so much to get into from last night's 3-2 overtime win against the Edmonton Oilers. But Pilsy, it doesn't end there because today is another Sens game day.
There's nothing better than having a game right after you win an incredible game as well. So they're up against the New York Islanders here, their last game before the All-Star break. Ross, I would love it if they headed into this break with back-to-back wins.
Tons of analysis, previews, and news coming up on today's show. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.
Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Today is Tuesday, February 1st, and Pilsy, who's back of the week? It's Matt Murray.
An absolutely amazing game for Matt Murray last night. Ross, we've been talking about it for quite a while. Now that Matt Murray's consistent, he's healthy, he's playing up to the standards that this team expected him to when they signed him and traded for him with that big contract, right? Now, the team is playing good in front of him as well, and he's rewarding them with coming up with massive saves. He had a couple breakaway saves, and the two goals that happened there, look, McDavid on a partial break, he's probably going to beat you, that's okay. And then that second chance, that's just an incredible passing play. And of course, it wouldn't be a Oilers versus Senators game if Darnell Nurse didn't score. So
Seriously.
You had to check that one off the bingo card, right? But Sens still come ahead 3-2 in overtime, just like I told you guys they would.
Yeah, you did say 3-2 OT win would be the case if Ottawa came out on top. I said if they were going to lose, it would be 6-4. And wow, they could have allowed 6 goals if it wasn't for the play of Matt Murray. We discussed it in depth on the postcast that you can find after each and every Senators game, including tonight. You can join us for the postcast after the Islanders game. Of course, we're going to preview that game. Really cool stat about former Ottawa Senator Zdeno Chara we'll save for later on in today's show, but I'm still reveling in that win from last night because Nick Paul does it all as well. Matt Murray in goal was phenomenal. Tim Stützle with the fight, the overtime game winner. But let's start with Nick Paul because I think the most impressive part of the 2-game sample we've seen versus Edmonton, Connor McDavid, 1 point in 2 games. It's a far cry from the 24 he had in 9 games last year. And Nick Paul, big reason why.
Absolutely, yeah. And hey, not only is he shutdown guy, Ross, he's putting the puck in the back of the net too. That was a amazing backhand shot. Koskinen had no chance on that. Great job by Nick Paul sticking with that play and finding the rebound and just quickly putting it bar down with the backhand. And you got to credit Nick Paul a bunch because he had to go up against McDavid all night, even in overtime. That's what DJ Smith talked about. He said, all right, McDavid was out there, so I wanted to get Paul out with Formanton. And then Chabot was on the ice initially. But then he said, all right, no, I'm going to get Zub out there because we really got to shut down McDavid. And then we'll get our scoring line in Timmy, Brady, and Chabot out there after. And hey, eventually that ended up working out.
Seemed to work just fine. I laugh a little bit when DJ said, oh, we saw them put McDavid out, so we took Chabot off and put Zub out, like the Oilers were going to start anybody but McDavid in overtime. But that being said, DJ was exuberant after that game last night. I've never seen a press conference where he's that excited. And he was quick to point out, and did so often, that Tim Stützle should not be fighting, and they hope he never will. But the old school tough guy in DJ Smith had to love the passion that Stutzle showed fighting William Lagesson, a guy, I'll say, just above his weight class. Like, there's a lot tougher. It wasn't like he was going out and going toe-to-toe with Zach Kassian or anything like that, but he also wasn't going up against, let's say, Ryan McLeod, not to throw a guy under the bus, but a guy who's probably not as big or tough. I just thought he handled himself great in that moment. A lot of people on Twitter especially thought Timmy could have kept it cool with 10 minutes left in a tie game. But man, when your top guy is that passionate and he wants to stand up for himself, and he was frustrated too. He said after the game, he missed some chances and he was going head to head against Leon Draisaitl all night too. So there's a lot to unpack here with Tim Stützle's game. We'll get to the game winner, of course, but leading up to that moment and including the fight, what was your impression of number 18?
he was on a mission. I mean, he had a bunch of really grade A chances, and that's why he's frustrated. And people can say, sure, if he's frustrated, he shouldn't be fighting out there because, like DJ Smith said, you want his hands to stay good so he can score goals and use that skill. But eventually you got to get that frustration out. And he was just sick of all these chances not going in. And how many smash sticks have we seen Timmy break? I mean, save the Sens a bit of money here and punch somebody's face in rather than break 4 or 5 sticks. So I love the passion from Tim Stützle as well. And like we talked about on the postcast, he had to elevate his game. And when you're elevating your game and getting chances and not scoring, that's frustrating. That's going to piss you off. And you can show your teammates that, hey, I know I'm not quite getting it, but it's not for a lack of trying, right? He's putting everything he's got out there. He played a bunch of minutes again last night. And you just got to tip your hat to Tim Stützle. And as DJ Smith said, we got a really good hockey player on our hands here.
Real good player. I think he learned that ism from Mike Babcock. Real good player. And Ottawa's got a few of them right now, including Nick Paul, including Tim Stützle. Those guys go head-to-head against McDavid and Draisaitl, who combined for 1 point. And if NHL.com stats would work for me, I wanted to find out just how well Nick Paul did against Connor McDavid in the faceoff circle, because last night, Nick Paul took more draws than he ever has in his career. He took 26 faceoffs. He won 14 of them, another career high, and his 5 shots on goal were one off his all-time pace. And that stat courtesy our good friend Brent Wallace over at Volume of Thought. But Nick Paul, man, we joke and say he does it all, but he really does. Now, Sean Simpson, we know Simmer's a pot stirrer, but he also has connections. His lock of the week is that Nick Paul will be locked up to a 4-year extension at $2.5 million per. This would be a steal if it does come to fruition.
I would love that. And similar to Nick Holden, it would just be nice to get Nick Paul signed just so that the speculation's over. Teams aren't calling. He's not worried about what's happening next season. Hey, the guy was just told to buy a house here recently, so he doesn't want to have to move either. If they could get Nick Paul on any midterm deal, like 3 to 4 years, under $3 million, I'm signing that all day.
Under $3 million is key here because Sens fans don't have to look too far back in the history books to a contract that, well, didn't work out the way they thought when Zach Smith got his extension at $3.25 million off of his Mark Stone assisted 25-goal season. Yes. And then we saw how he ended up on waivers the same way that Matt Murray did this year. I loved Ian Mendez's question after the game last night to Matt Murray saying, how are you a different goalie now than you were in November? It's a fair question, but Murray did not bite. Then Mendez is followed up saying, what's your thoughts on playing back-to-backs? Do you want to do it? Is it something that you try to stay away from? We have the answer to whether or not he will play today, but we'll save that for the other side of the break. I want to continue on last night's game briefly. And again, if you missed last night's postcast, the boys were fired up. Pillsy was on the side of the road, pulled over, got in there, all passion. We would have given you the helmet and the glasses for last night's game. It goes to Matt Murray. So now we have a pair of 2-time winners in Tim Stützle and Matt Murray. You could have given it to Timmy again, really, though. That effort, and I don't think we talked about it enough, but the effort that he put on Leon Draisaitl, like Connor McDavid was the best player on the ice. Every time he touched the puck, he's explosive. Nick Paul did a great job covering him, and he still was noticeable every shift. It's Connor McDavid. But to hold him to 1 goal, and then the guy who's checking him, even that out with a goal of his own, then you look at the next matchup, and it was Stutzle versus Draisaitl. And forget the fight, just in their on-ice ability, Stutzle made much more of an impact on that game than Leon Draisaitl. And to me, that is just another notch in this accelerated development curve that we're seeing from Timmy Superstar.
Yeah, and I love that DJ Smith gave Tim Stützle the opportunity to go one-on-one up against his fellow German, right?
Yep.
That's something Timmy is going to relish in. He's going to go right for that challenge. And he did a great job. Honestly, Ross, from watching the condensed game on NHL.com, the only noticeable time I saw Leon Draisaitl was the blank stare on the bench at the end of the game. And we've seen that a couple times from Leon this season. So that's pretty much the only time I was worried about him. Or he did have one opportunity that he missed and then smashed his stick against the boards. But other than that, Timmy was the German superstar that everyone was locked onto, and for a good reason. Like, yeah, to have the game he had, lots of chances, getting in the fight, and then getting stitches in the locker room, and then coming back and getting the OT winner. I mean, that what more can you want from a kid that is in the role that Tim Stützle is in? So he's just showing everyone that he's arrived, and we knew it was coming, Ross. Right? It just is taking time, and again, obviously the injuries to Norris, Batherson are terrible, and you never want to see that. But it has given Timmy a chance here to be like, okay, we drafted you 3rd overall. We're going to put a lot of pressure on you here. Let's see how you do. And I don't think you can handle the pressure any better than that. I mean, obviously some people are like, he shouldn't have been fighting there, but on this show, we don't mind throwing chucking knucks once in a while, as long as you don't get seriously injured. And he makes us real proud to be Ottawa Senators fans. And Ross, that's a game where it's such a damn shame there wasn't a packed CTC.
I know.
The roof would have blown off that damn place. Although, again, it's not good. It's not bad. It's neutral, because we did get a cool moment of seeing Drake Batherson right at the goal light celebrating Timmy's goal as just a regular fan, which I'm sure Drake Batherson hasn't had a chance to do in a long time. So that was a cool moment.
That was a very cool moment for the Ottawa Senators. And when you mentioned Timmy fighting, let's just make sure he doesn't get ahead of himself and try to take on big number 33 on the Islanders tonight, or Matt Martin for that matter, or Cal Clutterbuck. The Sens have a tough test tonight against a very physical opponent. And with the second half of back-to-back with travel, you might have to take a deep breath here before tonight's game. But the New York Islanders, although they have a winning record since their last meeting against Ottawa, they've lost 3 of their last 4 games, including 2 in a row. Their most recent, a 4-3 loss to the Minnesota Wild. So lots to preview coming up for that game. Again, if you missed any of the postcast last night, we recommend you go check that out for a deep dive into last night's game with our good buddy at Laleem's Martian, who you can find on Twitter. You can also find us on Twitter at Send Central. We do appreciate everyone for following along there. The road to 10K continues, and you can follow us on Instagram as well. LockedOn.Senators. Pilsy and I's handles right underneath us for our Twitter as well. Pilsy, we've got a same old sponsor, but they're doing things a little bit differently. It's betonline.net. So go check out betonline.net. There might be less football being played, but betonline.net has way more odds and info for the playoff season. The Super Bowl's around the corner. From scores, totals, player performance props, to where the next coach is fired, where's he going to land? BetOnline is the #1 spot for all things NFL betting in 2022. And it's not just football. We know everyone here loves betting on the Sens. BetOnline.net's basketball, hockey, boxing, UFC odds coverage is the best in the business. From sports right down to your favorite casino games, BetOnline is your #1 wagering destination. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports and play your favorite games. I got the Sens at plus 150 live last night when the Oilers tied it up. And you can too at BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Pilsy. So the Ottawa Senators emerged victorious last night, 3-2 overtime win against the Edmonton Oilers. And after being swept 0-9-0 last year against this team, they then beat them twice on the road, then at home, and they sweep the season series this year 2-0. They don't ask how many, it's just how, and it's a sweep for the Senators. One more as we just kind of finish up on that game. A couple game notes that you just scroll. Maybe this is water cooler talk, but Igor Sokolov, again, so close to his first NHL goal, right on the doorstep, just wide on his attempt. But he had a tie for the most hits in this game. He had 5 hits in this one. Same with Adam Gaudette. If you're looking at ice time, Nick Paul led the Ottawa Senators forward core with 23 minutes and 32 seconds on the back end. No surprise. Thomas Chabot, 26 minutes and 41 seconds. Artem Zub, 24:40. And Pilsy, the lowest was Lassie Thompson with 10 minutes and 50 seconds, which brings us to today's availability for DJ Smith, Pilsy. And Lassie Thompson will be on the outside looking in as Victor Mete replaces him tonight on Long Island. What are your thoughts on that decision?
It's an interesting decision for sure, especially because when Brandstrom was in COVID protocol, we saw Lassie take a big chunk of that responsibility and playing with Thomas Chabot quite a bit. Now that Brandstrom's back, and a great game by Brandstrom too. I just want to give a quick shout out to him because he got an assist and he's looking better and better every single night, especially on that right side. But as far as Lassie Thompson goes, I think maybe it's just a case of, all right, maybe you're not able to produce at the level when you're not playing as much. So we're going to get a guy like Mete who's used to playing further down in the lineup, and we'll give Lassie Thompson a break on this back-to-back here. And Belleville's going to have a couple games this week with the NHL All-Star break happening. So maybe he's just giving him a rest so that he can go back to Belleville fresh. I'm not really sure. Or it's just taxi squad time again for Lassie Thompson. But I don't mind this decision too much. And Victor Mete needs to get in a game or two once in a while here.
Yeah, I don't mind the move either. Lassie played a decent amount in the first period, but not much after that. As starting in the second period, Chabot was paired with Brandstrom almost exclusively. Well, for Brandstrom, I mean, Chabot plays with everybody no matter what, but I really like the way that that Brandstrom plays on the right side, and this allows him that opportunity. We'll see Mete likely slide in with Josh Brown on the third pair, and Holden and Zub, like what a revelation that's been for this Ottawa Senators team as a shutdown pair who we gave credit, and rightfully so, to Tim Stützle and Nick Paul for shutting down those two big guns on Edmonton. But Holden and Zub were right there with them as well. And also Chabot and Brandstrom, right? Because those guys were separated, McDavid and Draisaitl, on different lines. So I love what we've seen from those D pairs. And if they want to mix in a little fresh body here on the second night of a back-to-back, not the end of the world by any means. And we do have a projected lineup for tonight's game. And that's not the only change, Pilsy. In this one, maybe a little more contentious, as Matt Murray will not start. And the Senators only have this game until next Monday. Does that surprise you a little bit, as he's not playing the second half of back-to-back tonight?
No, not at all. And I hate to be the party pooper here. You and Leams Martian were very fired up about this, and I kind of squashed it right away. And yeah, I'm not surprised that Forsberg gets to start here. In my opinion, that's the right move. I don't think there's any good reason to have Matt Murray overextending himself going back-to-back, especially with the way the Ottawa Senators are here. And hey, Forsberg, you still want to boost that trade value. And Matt Murray...
Well, he's got some work to do then, because that last game, couple stinkers against the Ducks.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. You want to give him another chance to get back in here. And Matt Murray, after the trade line, he's going to get a lot of starts, guys. We've seen the compact schedule. Do not worry about that at all. And I would rather have Matt Murray get the full week off, remain healthy, remain consistent. So I know you guys were all for it, and it seems like a fun idea, but I'm glad DJ Smith went with a conservative approach here and given Forsberg the start.
So that's all fair and fun, sure, with back-to-backs, but not to revise too far back, but why not play Murray against the Ducks and the Islanders? Wouldn't the starter usually get 2 out of 3 starts here?
Well, and we talked about this too. I don't think Matt Murray's the type of goalie where you throw him in for a 12:30 start. I think he's very used to a routine. You know, he needs to go through his motions, and goalies are weird like that, right? It can be tough for if you don't get your nap in at the right time, if you don't get your meal in at the right time, you don't get to the rink at the normal time. So I don't have a problem with that either. Again, Ross, I'm sorry to pump down the excitement here, but I think the decisions that DJ Smith made were the right decisions. And yeah, don't worry, guys. We're going to see lots of Matt Murray for the rest of this season, especially with the way he's been playing.
All right. That's fine. The bottom line is both goalies have been playing well over this last month and a half now, where the Senators, during the POSTCAST era, have 10 wins in 19 games, but points in 13 of 19. And our good friend Tony Ferrari had some fun at the Senators' expense on December 14th, saying, you guys still kind of suck. Well, the Sens have points in 7 of 10 games since he made that statement. So, hey, Sens have been proving guys wrong forever. I have a buddy in Winnipeg. He said his friend put $500 on the Oilers last night. And my buddy warned him. No, Biz learned his lesson. You got to hope at least. But yeah, he said, man, don't underestimate the Sens. Without Norris, without Batherson, without Gambrell, there's got to be more guys.
And those would have been rough favorite odds too, eh? He wouldn't even had a chance to make that much money.
Yeah, it wasn't even that good odds. Connor Brown, we got to give a shout out to him. Obviously, he's a big part of this team who's been missing for a while. Still can't believe he played a full game with a broken jaw and got on the score sheet. Was a huge part. Hey, it's going to be a big week off for the Senators. They've got so many guys on this injured list. Before we hit this final break, then we'll get into our full preview. We've got our projected lines, locked on player to watch, lookout player. We'll check in on the Islanders roster that includes 2 Sens abroad, 2 of my favorite Senators all time, in Jean-Gabriel Pageau and Zdeno Chara. We'll check in on those guys. But this injury list right now for the Senators is long. It's not COVID related though, which is different, which I mean, you probably prefer rather than just have a bunch of guys out unknowingly, right? These guys, at least they're rehabbing. They're going to get back. You've got some guys skating as well. White, Brown, and Zaitsev are all skating, eyeing February returns. Dylan Gambrell, this day-to-day, I think it's probably, if it's playoffs, maybe he ends up getting into tonight's game, but just leave him out for a week. The guys have been playing well. Kaslich, man, in a short sample size, Mark Kaslich, nice little player here, coming in hard on the forecheck, and some decent hands on him too. And then Drake Batherson, Shane Pinto, you're looking at April, and then we hope that Crookshank and Josh Norris. Well, Josh Norris, we don't know the extent of the injury. Hopefully soon and later. That guy looked like he was having a blast chugging popcorn last night, though. So lots of injured guys who could come back, and the Sens just keep on rolling without him. And I cannot tip my hat enough to DJ Smith. This guy has been questioned time and time again for certain decisions along the way, but he has adapted and he's learning to deal in a pretty unknowing time, right? Like, you can't have experience of how this COVID has affected things in the NHL, and then having 2/3 of your top line out with injury, and the third member of the top line on a 14-game goal drought, and yet they're still finding ways to win games. Can they win another one tonight? Pilsy, let's get into that preview, but first, you've got a word from our friends, our old friends making a return. It's Rock Auto.
Yep, Rock Auto, guys. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes, models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. It's tough these days. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questions like things about your car that you have no clue about, and you're just saying, all right, just fix it? Well, no, you don't have to do that, because you can do it yourself. And the way to do it yourself is rockauto.com. You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. They make it easy. Save time and money. That's nice. You want to save both those things. Why choose to spend 30, 50, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? Ross wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. We don't want you to do it. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 2 decades. They've been doing this for a long time. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every single customer. They got everything you need, guys. Brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and now even new carpet. If you got pets, kids making a mess, don't worry about that. Rock Auto's got you covered. Go explore their easy-to-use website today at rockauto.com, and you can find the solutions to all your auto parts needs. Guys, go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. It's rockauto.com.
All right, Pilsy. So it's an Ottawa Senators game day. The Sens got back in the win column against Edmonton. They have points in 5 of their last 6 games. They're 3-1-2 over that stretch. And Anton Forsberg certainly earned his paycheck in the game against the Columbus Blue Jackets. He was brilliant, 35 saves on 36 shots. We know that he gets the start tonight, looking to rebound after 2 goals against on 20 shots against Anaheim. Now, yeah, it's still a .900 save percentage. It's all right. But that first goal still left a bad taste in my mouth. And the second one, he probably wants to have that back as well. So how will you know tonight if Anton Forsberg is looking confident and ready at puck drop?
Well, you talked about that first goal you didn't like. And the reason that first goal happened, Ross, is Anton Forsberg, when he was there, it was a wraparound attempt, right? And he was on the one side and tried to push his skate off the post to slide over to the other. He misses the post and pushes against nothing, obviously, and falls. So that's where he's off balance and he's not in position. And I think that could be a factor of a weird start time, right? He didn't get his warmups in. Who knows? He hasn't played in a while. Who knows what happens there? So what I'm going to be watching for from Anton Forsberg is, how is his movement? Is he staying square to the puck? Is he making crisp, nice T pushes, all that kind of stuff? And you're going to see pretty early, is he ready and is he into the game here? And I think there's no reason why he shouldn't be. So I'm expecting a good start from Forsberg here, especially up against an Islanders team that struggles to score goals.
Yes, they do. And we'll touch on the Islanders in just a minute. I want to get to the Senators' projected lineup for tonight's game. Anton Forsberg, we mentioned the starter, 7 wins, 7 losses, and an OT loss this year, a .295 goals against average, and a .911 save percentage that's worked its way up from down in the 800s a little bit earlier in the season. DJ Smith crediting, we appreciate that, goalie-friendly show, both tendies, their turnaround for being a big reason why the Senators have gotten win after win after win. It's almost like the POSTCAST era has pushed, as a goalie-friendly show, the Senators tendies up. We're not saying it, but some people are saying it to us on Twitter at Sens Central. On defense, Shabbat Brandstrom, Holden Zub, Mete Josh Brown. Up front, Stutzle, Tkachuk, Ennis, Tierney, Formanton, Gaudette, Paul, Sanford, Watson, and Kaslik, Bishop, and Igor Sokolov. Pilsy, I thought for a brief moment to move this Paul, Sanford, Watson line up as the second because DJ Smith absolutely loves them, and for good reason, man. These 3 guys are bringing it on the defensive end, killing penalties. The Sens PK has been ridiculous in their last 17 games, first in the National Hockey League. And those 3, a big reason why.
Yep, I'd agree. I think Sanford, maybe he hasn't been chipping in offensively like we'd hope, but he's finding other ways to stay in the game. And you mentioned Gaudette and Sokolov, no points, and those are offensive guys, but they're making big hits. They had 5 hits each, so they are also finding ways to stay in the game. And that's what it's all about. If you're not able to add anything on the score sheet, find a way to make yourself useful. And I think those guys have done that.
Yeah, they certainly have, like Austin Watson and Nick Paul, and most notably, I think Nick Holden, who leads this team in shorthanded time on ice. He's got that long stick. He's great positionally in his own zone, takes away passing lanes. And it's not even that the Senators' PK has provided such stability by not allowing goals, but they're just as much not even giving up chances. Like the Oilers' power play, they had 3 attempts last night. I don't know if they even had 5 shots on goal. Like the Senators' PK is just swarming puck carriers. How much do you credit that to the way Pierre Dorion has built this offensive core? And I mean, defensively, we talk, it's a lot of Nick Holden and Artem Zub, but offensively, they have so much speed on the penalty kill that they pressure the points. Nobody gets these easy passing lanes. Like, usually a power play, if things aren't working down low, you just put it up at the top of the umbrella and reset. The Sens don't allow you to reset. They come at you fast and physical, and that's why you're hearing coaches like Dave Tippett and others say they bring you into the fight, and if you're not ready, they're going to win.
Yeah, and for Dave Tippett to say, hey, this team's fast when you got Connor McDavid on your team, that's saying something. So you got to take that compliment with a lot of pride there.
No doubt. All right, let's get into our locked on players to watch in tonight's game. Last night, you had Gaudette. I had Tyler Ennis. I'd say a quieter game for both of those, the way they'd been rolling offensively in the last little while. But I did mention Gaudette with 5 hits. That in itself is something to tip your hat to when we looked at him throughout his tenure with Ottawa as a guy who, he provides offense, but defensively, is he always really there? Well, last night, he certainly was getting physical. Who are you locked on to tonight?
I'm going to be locked on to Brady Tkachuk, Ross. This year's Ottawa Senators NHL All-Star, unfortunately, with Drake Batherson gone, and we've talked about it. He's getting an amount of shots that is just absolutely ridiculous, but no goals. So I'd love to see him get a goal tonight, even if it's a greasy one that goes off his shin pad or something, Ross. Get a little bit of confidence heading into the All-Star break, because if he's still got that monkey on his back going into the All-Star break, he's got quite a while to try to try to get a goal and get back confidence here. So I would love for him continue to get shots on net, continue to drive to the net hard, get those rebounds, and just get a goal so that we don't have to talk about this anymore. So I'm going to be locked on to Brady Tkachuk.
I love that. And despite no goals in his last 14 games, he does lead this team with 55 shots on goal during that span. He had 12 in one game. So I'm not worried about Brady Tkachuk's lack of scoring. We know he's playing with some sort of injury. There was a great photo. I'm actually going to pull it up here in a moment on our YouTube. But last night, and Watson forgot the helmet and bike and glasses. So they weren't able to hand that out. But with
no.
Yeah, I mean, he named it to Matt Murray. Hopefully the boys have it for tonight on Long
Safety
Island.
first, jeez.
Yeah, no, well, did you see the video, man? Nick Holden is an animal. He's just going in there through the punch line. He's having an absolute ball. So no doubt about that. But here, getting back to the initial point with Stutzle and Tkachuk, I love how they've got their own little handshake where they do the pistols at each other. You love that. But look at Brady's left hand. His index finger, thumb, he's got a brace on there. Now, Timmy's a little taped up too, but that is not usual for Brady Tkachuk. And I wonder if that was why he was held out of practice the other night. So just a little note there, a little behind the scenes. But with Brady Tkachuk, man, you know he's going to do whatever he can. Still multi-point effort last night, +2, 5 shots, 3 hits, and played 21 minutes. So I mentioned on the postcast, like, do you hold him out of the All-Star game? No, it's just Mickey Mouse stuff there anyways, right? Kissing babies and signing autographs. So I don't think anybody's going to be two hands slashing him in the hand or whatnot. So Brady Tkachuk, great call there. I'm tempted to go with Timmy again, just like what can you do as an encore? But I mean, he was slated on the third line in his first game back. He ends up playing 23 and a half minutes. Let's see Eric Brandstrom continue this, because I was nervous that he was practicing as the extra the day before the game. I was like, oh my God, DJ, are you kidding me? You're not actually going to keep him out of the lineup. But this is a new phase for Eric Brandstrom. The development curve is here. He is playing NHL minutes, and fans were very upset that he hadn't been in that situation much. Well, now it's game after game. So the next step is, what can you do in the second half of back-to-back when the pressure's on and the Islanders are there? All right, we got to get to those Islanders before we wrap up. Here's their projected lineup for tonight's game. It's Lee, Barzal, and Bailey. The second line, Brock Nelson between Beauvillier and Palmieri. Third line, Jean-Gabriel Pageau between Ross Johnston and Oliver Wahlstrom, who had the game winner, I believe, against Ottawa in their last meeting. And the fourth line, no Casey Cizikas, which is rare to see. This fourth line's been together off and on for years for the Islanders. So it'll be Zach Parise at center between Matt Martin and Cal Clutterbuck. On defense, Adam Pelech and Scott Mayfield, Zdeno Chara and Noah Dobson. And the third pair, Robin Salo with Andy Green. The starting goalie will be Ilya Sorokin-Pilsy. With the news that Tom Brady retired today, officially, Zdeno Chara is the oldest athlete in professional sports.
That's incredible. And Chara deserves that. He works hard to keep his body in shape, and he's a guy we love seeing, even though he's not with the Sens anymore.
No question about that. And he's still chugging away, and maybe not putting up the numbers he once did, but it's incredible to see Zdeno Chara still moving along. Now, you noticed with Jean-Gabriel Pageau, who's going to be my lookout player, because, of course, I'm going to have to see how Chicken Parm does against the Sens here. It's his third meeting against Ottawa, but you notice the offensive numbers just really aren't there for a guy making $5 million for the next few years.
Yeah, it's not the same season he had last year with the Islanders, that's for sure. In 35 games, only 11 points, 5 goals.
-4, too. He's very rarely been a minus in his NHL career.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, we still root for the guy, except when he plays up against the Sens, but that's a very low production for him. And Ross, my lookout player, is going to be someone who's had the highest goal production for this team, and it's Brock Nelson. I feel like this is a guy that often gets swept under the rug. You look at the Barzals, the Baileys, the Anders Lees, and Brock Nelson's just able to go in and quietly and do his job as a good power forward. So he's someone I'm going to be looking out for, because he often gets forgotten, but he leads this team with 14 goals, and he's shooting at a 22.2% clip.
Wow. And to get back to Jean-Gabriel Pageau too, he scored a goal in that game in Ottawa. So he's got 1 goal in 2 games played against the Senators. The Islanders beat Ottawa 5-3 back on December 7th, when both these teams, who still have played the least amount of games in the NHL because they both got hit early with their COVID outbreaks. So both these teams, they're looking to make up some ground in the standings. The Senators up to 25th now in the NHL in points percentage. We'll see if they can continue that tonight. We do have to also mention Tim Stützle became the first player last night in franchise history to score an OT game winner and have a fight. So you absolutely love to see that. We'll see how he can do a one-up tonight. Can he one-up himself? That would be nice. Maybe a 2-goal performance. That's what I'm hoping to see out of him. But for the Ottawa Senators, you cannot fall behind. My key to victory is score first. And maybe I say this too often, but it cannot be overstated, especially against the New York Islanders team that we know doesn't score a whole lot of goals, but they certainly know how to shut shit down after going up in a game. So you cannot let them control the pace of play. It's Ottawa's first time in the new arena on Long Island. It'll be a packed barn. Ottawa just finished up a long homestand here. They just 4 straight games at home, so they haven't played against a full arena in a little while. We'll see how that affects them tonight, but it'd be nice to quiet them down and make it feel a little more like home early on in tonight's game. So I got score first. Pilsy, what do you have for a key to victory to send everyone off into another Sens game day?
Yeah, well, I mentioned they don't score a lot of goals, and Ross, this is not a place you want to be in. In goals for per game, only the Montreal Canadiens and Arizona Coyotes are worse. 2.38 average goals per game. So don't let this team get hot. We mentioned some guys are down, but there's a lot of talent on this team. I kind of rattled them off. Barzal, Beauvillier, Anders Lee, Josh Bailey, Brock Nelson, Jean-Gabriel Pageau. Like, there's so many guys that can score. So don't let this team get hot. Keep them wide. Don't allow any rebounds. Forsberg's got to be on his rebound game because they're a team that likes to play dirty and greasy and get those rebound garbage goals too, right? So just keep the Islanders cold. Don't let that new barn get excited. And I think the Sens have a really good chance to win here.
We will discuss it further on the postcast. Please like and subscribe. Today's video it does go a long way. And then tonight, join us for the postcast. Pilsy's going to be up in the air, but Lalim's Martian will take over, and we will break down an amazing back-to-back game. It's been a while, and I absolutely love these. Now, they did play Saturday, Sunday, but now we get a situation where it's on Locked On Senators show days. We're free and available wherever you download your podcast, Monday through Friday. It's been 485 episodes. We have a few great guests coming up in the next couple weeks as well. We took a little break for that. Pilsy's been away. Timing's been out. But we're your team every day, and we will continue to be throughout February, March, April, and into the end of the season and beyond, because the draft is right around the corner once the season ends. There's no off days on Senators land, and that is a damn fact. Nobody knows that better than Pilsy and I. We appreciate you making Locked On Senators your first listen of the day. Enjoy the game tonight. Again, follow us on Twitter at Sens Central, on Instagram, LockedOn.Senators for up-to-the-minute stats, news, analysis, and more. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.